Oh, it is noon on a Wednesday, Eastern Standard Time. James Palmer with you. That means we have an insider notebook here at Bleacher Report. Remember, each and every Wednesday, we are doing this from noon to noon 30. But coming up in just a couple of weeks, and it's part of our topics today, is the trade deadline in the NFL on November 4th. That's a Tuesday. And all of those days, pretty much leading up to the deadline, I'll be doing extra streams on here about everything I'm hearing about players that could potentially be on the move, who's buyers, who's sellers. We'll break all of that down leading into a big show on the 4th. I believe I'm a part of that show too, on the trade deadline. We're going to get through the big trade that happened yesterday. It surprised a lot of people around the NFL, and that's Joe Flacco going down I-71 from Cleveland down to Cincinnati. We got, bigger trades, other trades. I'm hinted at that just a second ago. We'll talk about those. The latest on Lamar Jackson. Could we see him on the field on Sunday against the Rams? I'll tell you where things stand with Lamar and the Ravens, as they have the Rams then a bye. And then, are there concerns with the Chiefs? They have now dropped another one on the road down there in Jacksonville. A thriller on Monday night. Trevor Lawrence on his birthday falls down twice, gets back up, and beats the Chiefs. Is there room for concern? Is this the slow start that they can overcome? They've done it in the past. Will they be able to do it this time? And then the Colts. This might be my favorite topic. I talked to people around the league. This might be the most efficient offense in the NFL, with Shane Steichen, who was on the hot seat and now a head, really a coach of the year candidate, with Daniel Jones running the show for them. Is he in the MVP conversation? We'll see. But the offense has been super fun. Make sure you jump in the chat. I'm looking at all of them right here. I love the first one. Make it a damn article, not a stupid video. Awesome. Appreciate it. We're off and running. Jackson Dart MVP. We'll see. I don't think that's happening. We just want to see if he's the guy in New York, and they have a big game Thursday against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's start with that trade that happened yesterday, and I mentioned kind of shocked everybody. It shocked everybody for one main reason. Cincinnati just doesn't do this. They don't make in-season trades. This is like the third one in 40 years. They just don't make in-season trades. But what essentially happened was they went out and got Joe Flacco for more or less next to nothing. He's owed about $2 million. Spread that over the next, the rest of the season, and it's something to try. And this is what they're doing. Try to hold the fort until Joe Burrow returns in mid-December. That's everything. You only have a certain number of seasons with these rare generational talent quarterbacks, which really there's four of them we think in the league right now, right? In Mahomes, in Lamar Jackson, Burrow, and Josh Allen. If you have one of those guys, anything can happen once you get into the postseason with them, and you only have a certain number of years with them. And Joe has been banged up, and you have the opportunity for him to return, opportunity for him to play for you in the postseason. You do anything, something even outside the norm for your organization. You go and make a trade for Joe Flacco. What essentially happened was, while Zach Taylor was telling everybody, I don't know if it's going to be Jake Browning Monday and Tuesday, behind the scenes, Duke Tobin and company were all trying to figure out who they should bring in. They never really made a call, to my understanding, about Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins, for a variety of reasons. And Kirk specifically, I'll mention that one. He's owed $10 million in 2026. You're not going to do that when you know Joe Burrow's going to be your quarterback in 2026. The financial side of things and the compensation you have to give up, just not really there. Russ didn't seem like there was a whole lot of interest. We'll see if that's a touch of something. But Joe Flacco allows you to do a couple of things that maybe some of those other guys couldn't do as well. Is step right in. He's done it before. Learn a system extremely quickly. He's learned a ton of things. If you ask anybody in Cleveland, there's nothing he hasn't seen in his football life. So he can pick it up very quickly. We'll see if he starts this Sunday. We'll get some more information from Zach Taylor about that. That might be a really quick turnaround, but we'll see. Maybe he can beat the Packers twice in one season. Nobody's ever done that in like a million years. And the other part is he still can throw it. He's going to be able to throw it, if you talk to people that know Joe, till he's 80. And they got guys that can catch it, right? They got a good group of pass catchers, maybe the best Joe's ever played with in his career, in his long career. And then also, he knows where the football's supposed to go. And I'm told this is kind of the part that Jake Browning was struggling with. Mistakes started compounding. They were 0-3. The offense wasn't moving. And I watched one of the games in person in Denver. There's just a lot of issues with this offense, and Joe knows where the football's supposed to go. So this is them crossing their fingers and saying, we're going to do everything we can to get to the postseason and get ourselves in a position to get into the postseason when Joe Burrow comes back in December. That's why they did something out of the norm for them. Here's the interesting part that everybody honestly wants to talk about, right? What's going on with the Browns and the side of things with their quarterback room? It's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory there. I mean, people just keep getting bumped off. It was let's get Kenny Pickett, well, let's trade away Kenny Pickett, and now we're trading away Joe Flacco, and it's Dillon Gabriel as the starter right now, and the logjam has essentially been removed. And Shedeur Sanders is in everybody's mind next in line. We have to remember what Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, said during training camp, and that was essentially this: we really want to make sure we see both of these rookie quarterbacks during the 2025 season. Remember, because of the Travis Hunter trade and them sliding back out of the number 2 spot, they have an extra first-round pick that they could use on a quarterback in the 2026 draft, which that group is looking a bit compared to what we thought at the start of the college football season. But I digress. They want to see both of these guys. We saw Dillon Gabriel out there against a really, really difficult Vikings team to go against. Brian Flores changes things up. He obviously brings a lot of pressure, simulated pressure, a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage. You don't know who's coming. You don't know who's dropping back. And he played really well against him. Like, he played very well. I'm trying to look at what I had here. 19 of 33 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, took just 2 sacks. They liked what they saw. They like his decision making. They like how quickly he processes information. He rips it once he makes a decision and puts the football in an accurate spot. They actually kind of thought he was like Bo Nix light in the draft, to my understanding, and they thought maybe we can sneak somebody in the 3rd round. So they're getting a chance to look at Dillon Gabriel. They were impressed with his first start. He also played, and this is part of the trade, because I'm told the Browns were essentially kind of done with Joe Flacco. It was the quarterback change happened mostly because of the way Flacco was playing, not because they had to see Gabriel immediately. And so that gives you an idea of where they were, and they're comfortable trading within the division because of what they've seen from Joe Flacco on their side of things. And so now we have Gabriel, and then the logjam, like I mentioned, is gone. No Kenny Pickett, no Joe Flacco in there. So then, as everybody would like, I could just go mute right now and go, Shedeur Sanders could be next in line, and there was always a plan to have him play at some point this season. Now, when that happens, we'll see, but they drafted 2 quarterbacks, and they wanted to see 2 quarterbacks, and I think that's a big part of this. So let's see what happens with Shedeur. Let's see what happens with Dillon Gabriel. This is a young core that they're very excited about. If you look at this draft class, and I think I've talked about it on here before, you look at Graham, and you look at Quinshad Junkins, and you look at Fannin, and you look at, what Dillon Gabriel has brought, like Schlesinger, all these different guys. They really like this core group of guys that they brought in this draft, and now they're looking at these 2 other quarterbacks. So now it allows the Bengals this trade to go and push forward and try to get, some wins. They're still, just 2-3. And in the thick of things in a division that's kind of up in the air right now with the way the Ravens are playing, and maybe put themselves in a spot to have Joe Burrow come back. And then you have the Browns, who moved on from Joe Flacco and now have the ability to go and analyze these 2 quarterbacks, these rookie quarterbacks, which was really their plan all along heading into this season. Let's go always jump in this chat here. A lot of AJ Brown chatting here. Wow, we're really flying through this thing. Here we go. Hate the videos. Awesome. Cool. Appreciate it. Do you anticipate the Chargers making any moves? This is a team that I'll get to in this group right now. Let's go. Biggest trades coming soon. There's always teams, and injuries are always a reason why you want to take a look at this trade deadline. And injuries oftentimes are the ones that push it. Where teams are within their season always drives it, whether you're a buyer or a seller. If you're a buyer with a key spot that needs to be filled, say a pass rusher oftentimes is somebody that is moved in the deadline. Is that somebody like Trey Hendrickson that could get moved? I don't think Cincinnati wants to do that right now. We're not there yet. They made this 1-year deal, which, remember, it is a 1-year deal, so somebody could go rent Trey Hendrickson. But they also don't give away players in the middle of the season. They don't. But what did they do? They already broke their precedent by going and trading for Joe Flacco. So if everything does fall apart with Flacco and they're completely, just out of it by the time Joe Burrow has a chance to come back, and they might even decide we're not even bringing Joe back, we're going to rest him the rest of the way, make sure he gets completely healthy. If that decision is there by November 4th, could Trey Hendrickson be somebody that the team's desire as a pass rusher? For sure. The Chargers was in the chat here. Running back has been decimated for them. Do you go and look at somebody like Breece Hall? I don't know if Aaron Glenn right now wants to look at his core roster. They didn't want to move him during the offseason. They thought he was going to be valuable to this team. He's trying to build a culture there in that locker room. He did it by doing the contracts for Sauce Gardner, for doing the contract for Garrett Wilson, and you don't want to be like that team that's selling off assets and then everybody thinks in that building that they're right back where they were at. But that's something that you keep a look at. I look at Russell Wilson as well. It's interesting, and it might be a team that was in desperate need of a quarterback to come in and that can throw the deep ball, wasn't even interested in Russ. There's really no financial type of thought process with this. Most of his $10 million salary was paid before the start of the season. The fact that the Cincinnati Bengals were not even that interested might be telling if that he's there. I think the Giants are listening if people call. I don't know if anybody's calling, but that's something that could be more available, I think, than Jameis Winston, in all honesty, in their building. Could David Njoku possibly be on the move? I mentioned Fannin and what that young core is doing. He's really playing well at the tight end spot. He's in the last year of his contract. Does somebody want an added weapon before their playoff push? I mentioned Brees Hall. The teams that I want to keep an eye on that could possibly be sellers, it's always teams that have change, right? And the Titans have a new front office led by Mike Borgonzi in there. And there's a lot of players on that roster. I don't say a lot. There's players on that roster that they wouldn't have picked if they were in charge of the drafts in previous years. So when I hear that, you oftentimes look at it and go, well, all right, there might be some guys getting shipped out because they're not part of the future, not part of the core. They weren't going to be picked by this group in the first place. I look at the Raiders and things have changed dramatically. Pete is being very aggressive in how he wants to turn this thing. You saw how quickly they moved on from Pratt, who just got picked up, I believe. Yeah, just got picked up. The Saints and are another one with an aging roster and no answer at quarterback right now. What do they do at the deadline? That's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. And then the Dolphins, they have a couple of edge rushers in Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Is somebody interested in a pass rusher? That's a position I always keep an eye on during the trade deadline. So that kind of takes us through a lot of there. Browns need a left tackle. Seahawks DB or right guard. I think the Seahawks are actually doing decent on defense for sure. I think in the trenches, the Seahawks are actually doing pretty well. Simmons to Baltimore. Is that a Justin Simmons that's hanging out there on the street? Former Broncos and Falcons quarterback, safety. I'm not sure. Wish he would say something about Chicago. Wish he would say something about. I'm thinking I'm the he. Listen, they're headed in the right direction, and the way that building feels right now about the way Caleb Williams is starting to turn this thing is really positive. I think the other part of it that they're very excited about is the way Rome Odunze has been playing, which has been really good. I think what we all need to realize is when you're working with a new quarterback and a mad scientist at the offensive spot, the process was to overload Caleb Williams tremendously and then figure out what he knows and what he doesn't know. And I think Ben Johnson's doing a very good job of figuring that out. And Caleb's playing on time more. He's still utilizing his legs. And I think a big part of this that's maybe being overlooked in Chicago a little bit is so much of it is, what can Caleb learn from Ben? What does Caleb need to learn from Ben? What does Caleb need to learn from Ben? There's an aspect I'm told of like Ben sitting there going like, what do I need to change? Caleb is a different player than Jared Goff. How do I make sure that I don't take away something that makes him truly special, which is his legs and his creativity and ability to improvise, and make sure he's still learning at the same time? It's probably one of the best things that happened for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in the beginning was be able to allow Pat to play that way, but also teach him the structure at the same time. If that happens in Chicago, which is their goal, but I think the reverse side is not getting talked about enough. I think part of it too is look at everything Josh McDaniels put on Drake May in the training camp, and there are parts of training camp in New England, if you talk to people up there, did not go well at all. Drake May is playing the best out of the second-year quarterbacks right now, out of all of them. He is. And so that's a similar situation if you want to think about something that's happening with overloading these quarterbacks. Let's see what, man, you guys are flying in this chat, by the way. I'm trying to like keep up at all. Raiders to get something at wide receiver. I definitely think that's true. Man, they love that tight end, don't they? I mean, he can't stop. Jerry needs to, what was that, Jerry? Jerry needs to make more trade. Doesn't need to make any more trades. I'd keep an eye on Javonte Williams there in Dallas. They really like him. Maybe they can kind of try to lock him up. That's probably one of the coolest stories out there. Alvin Kamara to the Steelers. Kendra Miller worth the pickup with Kamara on the move potentially. I'd keep an eye. I don't think Max is going anywhere. I just think that's just such a Pied Piper of that building that Pete wants to build around. Unless Max comes out and declares that he wants to go, that's just my opinion. I don't see them moving him. It's just kind of what they feel like they need to do. Burrow back in December. Yeah, we saw that. God, you guys are flying in this chat. I love it. Trying to. Oh, Jeff. Oh, Jeffrey Simmons. I think that's a cornerstone piece of what the Titans want to do. Bills go get Olave. I think that's something I do want to keep an eye on in Buffalo. Like Keon Coleman started out hot out of the gate, just can't get anybody outside the numbers to play well for them, and that's been a big issue. Hey, what do you think about the Bills? There you go. It's something that's been bothering them for the last couple of seasons. I thought Keon Coleman would be the guy last year as a rookie. That's asking a lot of them. In year two, they've seen up and down play. They have so much talent in the middle of the field with the way James Cook is running the football, with Khalil Shakir, with both tight ends, and man, they're running three tight ends and jumbo stuff. But I don't know if they go and make a major move like that. We'll see. A.J. Brown's not going anywhere. I see that in the chat several times. What pass rushers can the Chiefs get? I don't think the Chiefs are in a terrible spot. We'll get to it. Latest on Lamar. Let's keep moving here because I'm hanging out with you guys in the chat and I need to figure out what to do. Latest on Lamar is this. I'd be surprised if he played on Sunday. He's my fantasy quarterback, so that's a bummer. But they have a bye week after this game against the Rams. And this might be the most important bye week of John Harbaugh's career in Baltimore in some time. 18 years there. They need to change what's going on. There's players I've talked to that have played against him that just don't see that normal Ravens fight that we're used to seeing. So that's kind of surprising. They haven't ruled out Lamar. Again, I'd be surprised if he played. He is a unique player. He's a guy that could miss all of practice the whole week, show up on Friday, go through the light practice on Friday, and just somehow play on Sunday. Like he's done things that are strange like that before that you don't usually see from quarterbacks. So I'm not ruling anything out because it's Wednesday morning. But I think it's, might be a little tough for him to get out there. Now, this was considered like a 2 to 3 week injury. I'm not entirely sure that's exactly what he thought it was, or some people in that building thought it was, maybe a little bit more of a week to week thing. But again, I think it still might be hard for him to get out there. And it's tough for this offense to move when it's specifically designed for the skill set of Lamar Jackson. So I think that makes it a little bit tough. But I mentioned there could be Ronnie Stanley could come back. Kyle Hamilton could come back this week. They got to find a way to play better defense so this offense can stay on the field, which means you can use Derrick Henry more. But Lamar right now, it doesn't seem like that's really kind of exactly the spot. Steelers trade rumors. I know that for a while there, they were looking at a compliment to DK and seeing if that's something that they could go out and look for. I think obviously Austin was playing pretty well, and then I think he has the shoulder injury, right? So we'll see if they want to add to that offense. The short passing game's been awesome with the yards after the catch and moving DK inside the condensed formations and stuff like that. A-Rod's playing well. They're never a team that'll shy away from being aggressive, especially in the window that they feel like they're in right now. But we'll see what happens. We keep hearing Alvin Kamara getting moved. I mentioned in the previous thing, that's a team I definitely have my eye on. That would be a player you should have your eye on probably. When you have an aging roster and it's time to flip things, usually that's what ends up happening. The difficult part is the Saints never like to openly admit they're like in a rebuild. They kind of refuse it. So we'll see. Carolina Panthers, is Bryce going to be okay? This has been so up and down. There's definitely the investment there that you have to stick with. They've had some injuries at wide receiver. But it's been so up and down. They see a bright light, and then they kind of go backwards. And I definitely keeping his eyes downfield is the thing I keep hearing about. Jags pick up a tight end. Yeah, Strange is hurt, but that's not like forever. I don't think. I don't know. The Panthers are buyers or sellers. I'm so confused. I think the Panthers are confusing. Period. I'll be positive real quick about before I move on from Lamar. I will say this: they have two teams that have of their next 7 games have winning records. They don't play a divisional game. I wrote this down till week 11. It's still a winnable division. Lamar might have to carry them, so they might really understand that this week and the bye that puts themselves in a little bit of a better spot of where they're at. Let's get down to the Chiefs' concerns, guys. Whew, the Chiefs, man. Do you think the Bengals pass attack will get back on track with this pass game? Here's the chance. They got a guy that loves to throw the ball and has never had a group like this, and they're as talented as come. The Flacco with Bengals offensive line still scares me. I don't know how that's going to entirely work, but we'll see what happens. All right, so the Chiefs, they're at 2-3. I had I asked co-pilot. I said, hey, How do the Chiefs typically bounce back from a loss under Patrick Mahomes? And they kind of came back. They win 75% of the time after Mahomes loses, but they usually win most of the time anyways. In 2024, though, they were 10-0 in one-score games. This year, they're 0-3 in one-score games. So they're trying to fix that. And I would put that in the category of things that are very rare that are happening in Kansas City. And we saw that. And I think I bring this up because I think a lot of them are correctable. 13 penalties for 109 yards. It's just usually not the Chiefs. That happened on Monday night. I feel like that's something that's not going to stick around for the course of the season. Undisciplined on defense. Spags is one of the best at preparing his group. I don't see that being a week in and week out thing. Do they have some holes that they're trying to fix? Some guys in new roles? Certainly. But the undisciplined aspect of it, I just don't see something that continues for them. They're usually so prepared. I mentioned the one-score games. That eventually evens itself out to some capacity, but usually they win these tight games. They don't make mistakes in terms of complementary football. And you saw the kick out of bounds by Harrison Butker. Brutal. Can't do that. You saw obviously a mistake by Patrick Mahomes in the red zone. Hardly ever happens. And so I just think the complementary football being not what it's up to the standard of the Chiefs was rare. Why I think they're fine? The offensive line is getting better. It is. The rookie at left tackle, Josh Simmons, is playing really well. They're getting some protection for Patrick Mahomes. He feels it, to my understanding. He was able in this game to go through multiple reads. This was a defense that was fifth in the NFL coming into this game, and they moved the ball up and down the field. They averaged like 7.6 yards a play. Like, they moved it. He wasn't sacked once. And with the offensive line starting to gel with this running game a little bit, when I made some calls over there, it was, we're starting to get those two to work together, which allows Patrick Mahomes to work the play action even more, which allows Patrick to even work the bootlegs even more. And we saw all of that Monday night, and that part is not a concern. So I think they aren't overly stressed about what they're doing. They think if they keep playing this well up front, they have Worthy back. They put up a lot of points in each of their last two games with Worthy back, which was really their game plan and their focal point offensively, was to have it run through their speedster. And what have they done the last 2 weeks? I think I wrote it down. 37 and 28 points. That's fine. And then they're going to get Rice back in 2 weeks. I don't think there's panic. I think what they saw offensively, specifically from the O-line, to me, allows them to be a little bit more patient about what they think they can be and what they want to be in December, which is really all that matters in Kansas City as they head into the postseason. I'm not worried about Casey's offense. It's their defense. I think we've seen this before. I don't know if I've said this on before. I was covering a game in Washington several years back, and the Chiefs were giving up more yards per play. This was like end of September. More yards per play than any team in the history of the NFL. Like, they were on a historically bad pace as a defense. And Tyrann Mathieu at halftime, before they went into the tunnel, threw his helmet virtually like half the field. He was so angry. Spags got that unit together as the season went on, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. I don't panic. I honestly don't usually about Steve Spagnuolo defenses. Like, they get better as the year goes on, so I'm not entirely nervous. That division is no joke. -1 team. Ooh, roosting on the old Raiders there. I think the Broncos had a massive win, so I think that you're right. That was actually a big win there. Let's go through. If Dallas can get healthy, y'all better watch the fudge out. We are still winning and have tons of guys out. I would say this, talking to people in Dallas, they've loved what Javonte Williams has brought. Honestly, playing like one of the best backs in football. Dak is playing like an MVP, truly. Ask around the league. He is playing out of his mind. The two things that stand out to people in that building, I'm told right now, in complete command of that offense, unbelievable poise. His leadership and football IQ have been outstanding, specifically with all that he's dealing with in the offensive line in front of him, without an all-pro in CeeDee Lamb, without his third wide receiver, George Pickens stepping in, Jake Ferguson stepping in. And so they do believe when they Demo back, they do believe they get some other guys back on defense, they can turn a little bit of a corner. What they're worried about is that Dak's going to need to put up 37 points a game for them to be competitive. They don't want to live like that. They hopefully think this defense can maybe get a little bit better. Again, health-wise on that defense could be something that could definitely play a factor in that. Any quarterback availability for my Rams to trade for? It's interesting because the Rams have kind of a certain philosophy of like plug and play back there and let the defensive line go to work. We'll see if there's a move that's made, but I'm not entirely sure. And again, we're talking about a lot of moves here, guys. Justin Simmons to Dallas. It's weird that he's getting no love. There might be a thought that he doesn't have anything left, and I love Justin. He's one of my favorite players I've ever covered. John O in the move. Let's see, what else we got? Any potential buyers and sellers? I'm trying to scroll through here. You guys have all this these goods in here. I live in North Carolina. The Panthers are definitely not buyers, buddy. Yeah, they've listen. I would say one person in that building is going, please get me some help, and that's E on the defensive side of the ball. They've invested a lot on the offensive side of where they're at. I don't see them being buyers by any stretch. So they need all the young capital that they can keep their hands on. Why did the Ravens sign Flacco? I'll throw this out there. I'll just remind everybody they spent on Cooper Rush. Like they legitimately spent. They felt like they needed a backup that has gone out there and won games for a team. They saw it with Cooper Rush. I think he gave him like $6 million or something over maybe over 2 years, maybe. And so they had a plan that they wanted to be aggressive with the backup quarterback spot. Don't be surprised if you see Snoop in there a little bit. AJ Brown in New England. AJ Brown, guys, is going nowhere right now. He's really not. Are the Eagles going to trade for an edge? I think some of the guys are coming along. What's his name? Azeez Ojulari kind of came back and played a little bit and did all right. Zadarius Smith's just getting his feet wet there. They are getting Nolan Smith back in a few weeks. I think that's part of it. I think edge is an issue. It's something they're concerned about. They went into this season going, is Jalix Hunt going to be all right? Is Nolan Smith going to be able to hold down the fort? We're thinner there than we usually are, and they've made some moves already in those spots. And so I don't know if I see them making another move, but we'll see what ends up happening there. Jordan Addison to Pittsburgh. Oh, interesting. No. My Chargers need to align. The Chargers need a lot of things. Sadly, they're going through the Charger injury issues that just seem to happen. It stinks because, man, did they start out hot, like start out really hot. Any left tackles out there tradable to help the Browns? Most teams don't have enough starters on their own team, let alone the ability to have the depth to trade guys. You saw Cam Robinson leave the Texans for nothing. There's to get yourself some O-line help right now is difficult. It is actually difficult. Dallas upgrading D. I think Dallas is waiting for these guys to get healthy, and I think that can help them. Chargers need a lot of things. I started out so good too, and I love all three of their wide receivers playing together. I think it's I like it. Carson Wentz in here. Yeah. Hey, Carson Wentz went out there and, game-winning drive overseas. I like it. My Seahawks have to do something about Woolen Fast. Asante Samuel is out there screaming to get picked up. And Team Bedford has to go. I love the Seahawks right now, by the way. I know that there's a lot of this Woolen talk, and it hasn't gone exactly the way, after it started out so hot, and they've changed what they're doing in that secondary a little bit. I'm focused on up front, man. That front is so good on defense. That group of three they're just outstanding. They really are. All right, I got to get to the Colts because I got to mention this, and I'm in this chat. I love it. Raiders going to ride it out. We already saw that Pete has made some moves to change the culture immediately. Did one Christian Wilkins before the season. You saw Pratt just now. Like, he's not scared to rip the Band-Aid on some of these veterans or some of these players if it's not exactly what they want. It's going to be interesting to keep watching it. Could DJ Moore be on the move? I know they love him, but it's a big contract too. It's a real big contract. Anyway, Colts. This is the most efficient offense in football, guys. It is super fun to watch. It is not just that they're balanced. It's that whatever the defense throws at them, they just have the ability to do the opposite. They don't try to stay balanced. They just read the defense, and that's kind of how it plays. Jonathan Taylor's leading the NFL in rushing. Obviously a linchpin of what they're able to do. His balance, his speed, his ability to hit the home run is so huge. And when I talk to people there, it's because he can take the ball the distance. Defensive players are always a step towards the line of scrimmage, a step towards the middle. You don't want them to get to that second level, and that impacts the passing game, where they have guys that operate in exactly what they're being told to do. Michael Pittman's the X. He's kind of the leader of the group, but Josh Downs is in the middle going in the underneath stuff outside the slot. Alex Pierce goes deep. They have something for everything, and everybody knows their role. And they have Daniel Jones spreading the football around, which I think is great. But the real X factor, I think, of this entire offense is Tyler Warren. The emergence of the young tight end from Penn State has been unbelievable. He has exceeded their extremely high expectations, I'm told. And so when he can line up anywhere on the field, and he is not a tell like some of these other tight ends that are coming out that are just pass-catching tight ends. They run the football behind him. They have designed runs behind him. They have the ability to remain in a run pass balance with him on the field and then utilize him in the middle, opening things up for the other receivers. He's their leading receiver. Like, don't be surprised if he goes out there and throws a jump pass touchdown. I think he attempted one, didn't he? And so they can use him all over the field and really kind of hide what they're doing to everybody else out there. So it has been super fun to watch a coach go from a hot seat in Shane Steichen to, is this the guy, to the front runner. And I think in terms of the gambling odds, he is the leader in the clubhouse for coach of the year. And Daniel Jones also a cast-off. So really, really cool to see what's happened with the Indianapolis Colts. Let me see what I can. Don't put it past Dallas to make some big trade. Y'all know how Jerry B. Yeah, I thought he was signing George Pickens. Thought that was happening. Do the Cardinals have a QB issue or a coaching issue? I'd look at who's been there longer. Has it been the same quarterback or has it been multiple coaches? What happened Sunday is inexcusable. I had other coaches texting me going like, what happened? I don't understand what happened. And that you just can't lose that game in that way. But I'll say this, they've lost 3 games by a combined 5 points. Like they're better than they were. And I think they were my sleeper on here when I was talking to you guys about this. I'll answer this last one. Kirk Cousins going anywhere? I don't know if the Shedeur's getting traded. I just don't see any chance Mike gets traded. Kirk, I really don't see Kirk going anywhere. I really don't. Like, it's a tough contract to trade because it's kind of a 2-year plan because you're on the hook for $10 million in 2026 if you trade for him. I think with Michael Penix and his injury history, which he's stayed healthy in the league, but like he has some injury history. They think it's a very reliable backup for sure for Penix, and they think there's value in hanging on to him. And we'll see if somebody comes a calling to the Falcons, but I think they're going to have to bring their pocketbook, and they're also going to have to give up some compensation. I don't know if the Falcons are willing to eat a ton of that money, and so that's a big part of this as well. So, everybody, hope you enjoyed this one. Got a minute long, but it's a minute of bonus time. Remember, coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to do a ton of them, of these streams about what's happening around the trade deadline. Hopefully, get you guys a lot more information. The chat was fire, by the way. I love what you guys bring. Colts going to upgrade on defense. Like, see, like this is awesome. You got all sorts of things in here. By the way, Lou's done a decent job in that group, huh? How about that? All right, everybody, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Go see if Lamar practices this afternoon. I doubt it, but we'll see. That would be wonderful. Take it easy.